Very good evening, students. In this session, we are once again going to discuss about the next lesson in supplementary, that is Journey to the End of the Earth. The lesson belongs to a journey by the South writer Tishani Doshi, who was on Russia's research vision during the secondary students, and she visited Antarctica, the coldest, windiest, and the driest continent in the world. It was program and ice. Through this program, the writer visited there, and whatever she has observed there discussed in the lesson. In the beginning, the lesson describes about the historical background of Antarctica. When it was a warm place in the beginning, when the creatures like dinosaurs were at that time, and it was Gondwana, the amalgamated land mass, when there were high temperatures and the creatures like dinosaurs, mammoth were survived at that time. And there were huge variety of flora and fauna at that time. For the millions year Gondwana thrived, and after that the mammals got underway when the climate became cool. And it was a rare place to understand what was in the beginning. And later on, the writer Tisani Doshi started her journey from Madras to the Antarctica. Let us discuss about Antarctica. As we know, it was an amalgamated mass in the beginning of the earth, and finally it saved the countries like today. The most important fact about the Antarctica is that it maintains the temperature of the earth. For a few times it has been seen because of the overpopulation, there is overconsumption of the four biological system, and because of this there is a threat of the global warming, and after the threat of the global warming it is the risk factor for melting the glaciers, causing the coastal town to be shaken. As we are going to discuss about the some important points that reflect especially as the question's perspective, and the most important one, the phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are those single-celled plants that nourish at least 90% of food chain of the marine animals. And these single plants participate in an important process called photosynthesis. And wondrously produce a carbonic organic compounds, glucose, to produce as a food. And in spite of all this, these are very important. And on the other hand, the scholars, the scientists mention that there is the depletion of the ozone layers, and they want, if there is a further depletion in the ozone layers, there is a threat of global warming, and also because of the threat of the global warming, there is the risk of the living creatures also on the earth. And we have to move. The next important topic is the program on the ice. The writer Tisani Doshi visited the Antarctica. It also based on the program on ice. It was first stated by the Canadian Joffrey, who was tired of courting the celebrities, retired men, and also the old ones, because they evaluate a little about it, and there was no a comfortable response by them. That's why the writer decided this time to go in such kind of a tour. And the Canadian Joffrey, through the student program on ice, decided to secondary students to visit the Earth's important perspective so that they can understand the important process, that is the climate change, that is the threat of global warming, and also a lot of harm done to the surroundings. The secondary students are the curiosity seekers. They will understand the importance of the process after knowing all kind of activities, and they will also aware the people here to understand about the planet and how to protect it. That was the program Arise. And definitely now we move to the perspective of life on the earth. Antarctica is a very important place because it is pristine, because of because of the lack of diversity, and human cannot stay here as far as this. Let us talk about the human impact on the earth, on the planet. Before humans arrived, each and everything was on a peaceful atmosphere in a natural process. And since the human has arrived on the earth, it made a ruckus. It made a chaotic conditions with a dominance of on this earth, itching to find out the surroundings as well as the entire perspective on the earth. And hence, the human has created a lot of problem for the entire environment. Nowadays, because of the burning fuels, there is a thick layer of the carbon dioxide around us. The temperature of the earth is increasing. And because of this, we understand that there is a threat of global warming. And because of the global warming, there is an untimely climate change. Sometimes we see that there is heavy rain, sometimes there is drought, and sometimes there is imbalance of the things in the atmosphere. And for this, the human has made left us battling with other species. Human has a great impact on. Now we have few words in Hindi for the lesson Journey to the End of the Earth. Journey to the End of the Earth दक्षिण भारतीय लेखिका तिसानी दोषी की रूसी अनुसंधान जहाज पर की गई एक यात्रा है जो धरती के उस छोर की यात्रा है जहां पर बर्फ ही बर्फ है। ये मद्रास की भूमध्य रेखा से उस क्षेत्र की ओर आरंभ हुई जहां पर 9 समय विभाजित 6 भूखंड और 3 भाग पानी यानी जल है। इसमें लेखिका बताती है कि जो अंटार्कटिका है ये आरंभ में एक मिश्रित भूभाग था जहाँ पर तापमान अधिक था और डायनासोर जैसे जीव विद्यमान थे और ढेर सारी वनस्पतियां और जीव अंत में थे। कालांतर में इन जीवों का लोप हो गया और धरती पर स्तनधारियों का आना आरंभ हुआ। धीरे धीरे ये विशालकाय जो हिमखंड थे ये टूटते गए और दुनिया को आज वर्तमान जैसा आकार प्रदान किया। इसमें लेखिका बताती है कि जैसे जैसे वो भूखंड अलग हुए मध्य में एक ध्रुवीय धारा आ गई जो इसे ठंडा बनाए हुए है यानी धरती की सतह को ठंडा बनाए हुए ताकि इसका तापमान न बढ़ सके। जब तक मानव इस धरती पर नहीं आया था सब कुछ होता था और सब कुछ प्राकृतिक के स्वाभाविक रूप से चला। जैसे ही मानव का इस धरती पर आगमन हुआ उसने प्राकृतिक संसाधन का अत्यधिक दोहन किया और इस प्रकृति को अपने नियंत्रण में रखने की उसे खुजली सी लग गई और इसने यहाँ पर अशांति पैदा कर दी जिससे अन्य जीव जंतुओं को खतरा हो गया और प्राकृतिक असंतुलन पैदा हुआ। वर्तमान में देखा जाए तो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन ऐसी एक कोष की वनस्पति है जो लगभग 90% समुद्री जीवों के भोजन का पोषण। If we talk about humans' arrival on this planet is concerned, the prognosis is not good because human had overconsumed the natural resources and also left us other species battling with us. We can understand that there were the many creatures departed from this planet because of the lack of natural atmosphere. And it is our planet, we must understand that we have to protect it. And after reading this lesson, we find out that Antarctica is a safe zone, a kind of place which protects us from the burning temperature. and it is necessary to protect Antarctica to maintain the living existence on the Earth. So, the recent journey to the end of the Earth was based on Tisani Dhotri's academic tour on Russian research vessel to the end of the planet, to respect the planet, to understand the planet, and to aware the others about it, that they must understand the threat of the global warming and a cause of unnecessary climate change, a cause of the existence of the other living being to be extinct. So it is our duty that being a human being, you understand the importance of other living beings and to protect our earth. And hence, we वैज्ञानिकों ने सावधान किया है कि अगर ओजोन की परत में आगे फिर से छह हुई तो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन के क्रियाकलाप पर असर पड़ेगा, समस्त जो है खाद्य श्रृंखला चरमरा जाएगी और यहाँ तक कि जीवों का अस्तित्व भी विलुप्त हो सकता है। इसलिए जो है ओजोन परत को क्षय होने से रोका जाए। तिसानी दोषी जिस कार्यक्रम के तहत गए उसका नाम था विद्यार्थियों का बर्फ पर आना, और इसी वजह से जो माध्यमिक स्तर के विद्यार्थियों को दिया जाएगा ताकि वे अत्यधिक इसमें रुचि दें और बड़े उत्साह के साथ वे इस धरती पर जीवन के महत्व को समझेंगे, विशेषकर जलवायु परिवर्तन को जो अंटार्कटिका में पूरी तरीके से परिलक्षित हो रहा है, जहाँ पर अनेकों प्रकार से हिमखंड बनते और बिगड़ते दिखाई दे रहे हैं। अंटार्कटिका अपने आप में एक अजूबा है, एक रहस्य है और परीक्षण की दृष्टि से, प्रयोग की दृष्टि से अत्यंत विशुद्ध स्थान है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर जैव विविधता का अभाव है। किसानी दोषी ने यहाँ पर इसकी जो जलवायु की विशेषता है उसके बारे में बताया है कि यहाँ पर अनेकों प्रकार के वायुमंडल है और इस विविधता और विशुद्धता के कारण अंटार्कटिका आज भी वो स्थान है जहाँ पर हम वर्तमान भविष्य के बारे में जान सकते हैं। ये एक विशुद्ध स्थान है जिससे हम वर्तमान में रहते हुए भूत की का पता लगा सकते हैं। अतः ये जो पार्ट जर्नी टू द एंड ऑफ द अर्थ है, ये प्राकृतिक उन दृश्यों का चित्रण कर रहा है और हमें उस उत्तरी ध्रुव की ओर बता रहा है जहाँ पर ये धरती अपने आप में सुरक्षित है और इसके बढ़ते तापमान को बचाया जा सकता है अगर हम अंटार्कटिका को इसी प्रकार में शुद्ध रखेंगे। अन्यथा बढ़ते हुए तापमान के Dear students, once again very good morning to all of you and welcome to in our official channel, Ramesh Sir Official, and we are just in underway to the supplementary lessons where we are going to discuss about the next lesson number 2, and it is the Tiger King, a famous lesson. In this lesson, the writer describes about man's attitude towards animal. As we know, since the very beginning, the man has been hunting the animals, and because of its own hobbies, but as we know, it is an offense. And hence, in this story, a kind of either it is a parable or it is kind of something which is based on a fiction. But in spite of all this, it has a kind of fact or moral like that. The story is having something left before this. And in this story, there is an incident which is a very different one, but the narrator narrated it very beautifully. The narrator is Kalki, and we in this chapter the story begins to a royal family of Pradvanpuram, where the prince was born, and when he was born, the astrologers were called for the prediction of the royal prince in the family. All the astrologers visited there and predicted of the prince's greatness, saying that he will be a great king, the warrior of warriors, champion of champions, hero of heroes. But one thing was there which the chief astrologers decided not to speak about it. But the newborn child was barely 10 days ago made a great words from his upper lips. When the chief astrologers tried to make it out, then he was forced to speak about the prediction, which was the important one in this story. The chief astrologer predicted of his death by a tiger. At this, the royal prince growled with the words saying that let the tigers be aware. In reply, the British officer's wife told that she agreed the British officer by doing this and thanks to the king. Finally, the Tiger King retained his kingdom, paying so much cost. And finally, when the Tiger King killed all the tigers in his state, now he needed to kill more to fulfill his promise to kill the 100 tigers. So now he had to marry the princess of nearby state, and he also started killing there the number of tigers. But soon the number of tigers came to an end, and finally the king succeeded to kill 99 tigers. Now one more tiger needed to fulfill his promise of 100. But it was easy to say than to find a 100 tiger. And finally, somehow, Diwan managed the 100 tiger after a lot of struggle, as he knew that the king was at high temper in a furious approach. So it is a very necessary for him to find a 100 tiger for him to make his anger silent. And finally, the Diwan managed the 100 tiger from a park at Madras and managed the tiger to release him in the forest nearby. Near the, now, few words in the story, the Tiger King. द टाइगर किंग एक ऐसी कहानी है जो एक कथानक है, कल्पित है, लेकिन इसके पीछे बहुत सारा मोरल यानी नैतिकता का संदेश छोड़ जाती है। एक व्यक्ति का किसी भी वन्य जीव के प्रति इतना हिंसक होना वो स्वयं में चिंता का विषय है। एक भविष्यवाणी में पढ़ करके और किसी जीव की हत्या करना वो भी अपने आप में मनुष्य के उस जानवर के प्रति रवैये दिखाता है। इस कहानी में राजघराने में पैदा हुए राजकुमार का उल्लेख है, जिसके बारे में ज्योतिषियों ने उसके जीवन के बारे में भविष्यवाणी कर दी थी। उन्होंने उसको महानतम में महानतम बताया, योद्धाओं में योद्धा बताया, विजेताओं में विजेता बताया। और कोई ज्योतिषी ने आगे कुछ कहना चाहा कि उनको कह लेकिन जब उससे विवश किया गया तो उसने भी कह दिया कि राजकुमार का जो जन्म हुआ है वो कृष्ण नक्षत्र में हुआ है, इसलिए जो मृत्यु है वो चीते से हुई। इस पर जो है जो शिशु था वो डरने के बजाय पूरी तरीके से घबराया और कहा कोई संदेह नहीं होना चाहिए और इसमें कोई समझदारी नहीं है, बल्कि ये बताया जाए कि मृत्यु किस प्रकार से हो। इस पर प्रमुख जोशी ने सवे चीते से सावधान रहने की बात की। जब टाइगर किंग युवा हुआ तो उसे उस भविष्यवाणी के बारे में याद आया और वहां से उसने चीतों का शिकार करने की कार्य योजना शुरू कर दी। जिस समय वो अपनी इस कार्य योजना में लगा हुआ था तभी एक अनजानी बाधा उसके जीवन में very good evening to all of you dear students, and after finishing the summary of the first section, now we enter the supplement. Here in this sequence, now we turn to lesson number first, the third level. The third level, you know that a kind of fantasy. Whatever we think or different, whatever we imagine, something like that we imagine about the past. The lesson, the third level refers to such kind of story by a guy, means a man named Charlie. Charlie worked in an office, and one day he got late to go to his home. Hence he thought to pass a subway, a shortcut to reach his home early. By doing this, he passed through a tunnel which was unknown to him. And crossing the tunnel, he reached a level which was unknown to him, where the things were odd looking, the people were odd looking, and there were the wooden chambers, windows, and finally he guided the third. And all this happened at New York railway station in the Grand Central building where he worked. When Charlie told his psychiatric friend Sam Banner about this, then Sam Banner told Charlie that it was a wish fulfillment and a refuse from reality, because the modern world is full of fear, doubt, uncertainty, anxiety, war, and insecurity. And that is why he talks like this. But Charlie wanted to prove his idea the third level, for which he turned to collect the things that belong to the old, like American Rashtrapati, President Franklin Roosevelt, who also collected the stamps. And he also collected the envelope and also the newspaper of the world. Meanwhile, he thought of all this. He decided the place which was considered for this. Charlie went to wine dealer to exchange his new and the current currency to the old ones, as he wanted to go Gettysburg in the past century in 1894. So for this reason, he collected old style bills, and when he visited the counter, asked the booking clerk to give him the ticket, paying the money. Then the booking clerk told him that the money that he gave was not a real one, and it was a fraud. At this, Charlie realized the situation and turned back on his feet from there, as he knew that it was a kind of thing to go to jail. Hence he departed his home. And after that, he was lost in such kind of ideas. Meanwhile, he found one envelope which was of the past time, but it was not like the other. It was written in a paper that was addressed to his grandfather, and the address was belonging to his friend Sam, where in the letter he had requested to come with Lucia to Sam. As the Sam requested both of them to visit there in such a atmosphere which is full of peace and nature, and someone was playing piano there, and the bird was singing nearly boom like a song. And it was a kind of fantasy that Charlie realized at the New York railway station Grand Central building, where he found such kind of happening. Whether it was real or not, जब लिफाफे को उसने खोला तो उसमें कुछ यूं लिखा था। उसके मित्र ने उस लिफाफे पर उसके दादाजी का पता लिखा था और उसमें उसने अनुरोध किया था चार्ली से कि चार्ली अपनी पत्नी लूसिया सहित वहां पर चली जाए, जिसे गैल्सबर्ग कहा गया, जहां पर तीसरा तल है। प्राकृतिक वातावरण अत्यधिक शांत, जहां पर उसका मित्र सैम अपना पुराना अनाज और भूसे का व्यापार कर रहा था, जहां पर अभी कोई सिंग नेली होम नामक गीत गा रहा था, कोई पियानो बजा रहा था। सुकून के पल थे, शांति के पल थे और वहां पर इतना ज्यादा अशांति नहीं थी। और उसने चार्ली से कहा कि कृपया यहाँ आ जाइए, अपनी पत्नी को साथ लेकर के भी आइए और ढूंढते रहिए तीसरा तल, क्योंकि तीसरा तल है और वो तीसरा तल कोई और नहीं बल्कि केवल ये एक मानसिक रूप से, वैचारिक रूप से, काल्पनिक रूप से मन की संतुष्टि के लिए किया गया चिंतन का स्तर था। इस जीवन की वो स्टेज है जिसको हम कभी कभी ट्रांजिशन मान लेते हैं, एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे पहुंच जाते हैं और वास्तविकता में हम जीवन में कल्पनाओं को और वास्तविकताओं को जोड़ करके ही सामंजस्य बना करके चलते हैं। कभी कभी वास्तविक दुनिया से जब हम पूरी तरह से उब जाते हैं तो ये कल्पनाओं का दौर होता है, जहाँ पर हम चिंतन करके ही सही अपने आप को सुकून देते हैं। ये पाठ वास्तव में मनोरंजन हास्य से भरपूर है, लेकिन एक दार्शनिक पक्ष भी छोड़ के चला जाता है, जहाँ पर हमारा तो देखा कि तीसरे तल पर उसे चीजें बिल्कुल अजीब दिखी और इसी को उसने तीसरा तल दे दिया। और जब उसने इसका जिक्र अपने मनोचिकित्सक मित्र से किया, ये आपका एक जागता हुआ सपना, आपकी इच्छा पूर्ति, क्योंकि आप वास्तविकता की दुनिया से बाहर नहीं सकते। जैसा कि आजकल की जो दुनिया है भय से, तनाव से, चिंता से, असुरक्षा से और युद्ध से भरी हुई है। इसीलिए वो तंग आकर के इन सब से दूर भागना चाहता है। जब भी चार्ली तीसरे तल की बात करता तो उसकी जो पत्नी लूसिया है उसे बहुत ही बेचैनी होती, बहुत ही दुखी होती, क्योंकि उसे ये डर था कि कहीं चार्ली उस परिवार को छोड़ करके, उस सारी जिम्मेदारी को छोड़ करके अलग हो जाए। उसे लगता था कि ये चार्ली का एक पागलपन है और वो तीसरा तल बंद कर। लेकिन चार्ली कहाँ मानने वाला था। वो तो सिद्ध करना चाहता था कि तीसरा तल है। इसके लिए वो पुरानी चीजों का संग्रह करने लगा, लिफाफों को इकट्ठा करने लगा, डाक टिकट को इकट्ठा करने लगा, पुराने समय के समाचार पत्रों को इकट्ठा करने लगा। और तो और वो उस जगह पे जाने लगा जहां पर उसे ऐसा लगा कि ये पुराने चलर का रेलवे ट्रैक, पुराने चलर के लोकोमोटिव डीजल इंजन। इन सारी चीजों को साबित करने के लिए वो पूरी तरह से लाले था। आखिरकार उसको द वर्ल्ड नामक एक पुराना समाचार पत्र मिल गया, जिसके पेज उसको लाइब्रेरी में भी मिले और उसने इस चीज को सिद्ध करने की कोशिश की कि तीसरा तल है। तभी क्या हुआ कि उसे कुछ पुराने लिफाफे मिल गए। उन लिफाफों में ढूंढते ढूंढते उसे एक ऐसा लिफाफा मिल गया जो अंदर से खाली। थर्ड, तीसरा तल एक फैंटेसी, एक कल्पना जो हर किसी के ऐसी ही कल्पना चार्ली नामक व्यक्ति के अंदर है। जब उसने ग्रांड सेंट्रल स्टेशन तीसरे तल का अनुभव किया, एक समय फिर एक रात जब वो कार्य करके ऑफिस से ट्रेन में खाने के लिए निकला, उसे जाने की थी, उसने विचार किया कि वह जो है छोटे रास्ते से और ऐसा करते हुए एक सुरंग से पहुंचा। और जब उस सुरंग से होकर पहुंचा तो उसे एक ऐसी जगह न जाए जो बिल्कुल विचित्र और जहां पर पुरानी चादर की चीजें थी और वहां जो टिकट थी जिसमें सिस्टम है जो उसे ले जाता है शोर पिछली in this story, there is a story of an adolescent who is in the which always thinking about pieces like which is full of nothing, which is full of nothing. That is always those he was born in the world where somehow everything are managed as the father was transferred to the next. It's such a power distribution. Sufi was a different see God of all the love. Meanwhile, Lucy was with her great Jensen, and both were very while talking about the story of where Sufi told Lucy that she would also start talking. But Jansi was surprised at this, as she knew that she would not get so much money to start such an activity. But unaware of the fact, Sufi thought that she would become a model and other their students and to other when we are going to once again discuss about regulation about cross-section that is very basic. In this story, there is a story of an adolescent but teenager girl who is always thinking about an ambitious life which is full of nothing, which is full of nothing. That is always good. Those he was born in a poor family where somehow are managed as the father was transferred to the West. It's such a power district. So he was a different one. See, part of all the other meanwhile, she was with her friend Jansi. Jansi that it needs a lot of money. But Sophie thought it is a very easy thing to earn money. Meanwhile, in this perspective, she now talks about a celebrity who was there in the United Kingdom. And he is he assumes a different motive in life. She thinks of him about to become a something. Here, she assumes an ideology to meet him in the West window at the garden, while she was with her little brother. First, she revealed as a story to her mother, so you know someone. She told her that it meant a lot of money, but so thought it is very easy to work. Meanwhile, in this perspective, she now talks about a celebrity who was there in the United about to become a something with him. Then here, see, assumes ideology to meet in Louis like the art, while she was with her brother. First, she revealed surprised and did not think at her. And finally, Suki tried to tell this through joke to her father. Her father denied the fact that it was only joke by her. In the meantime, Jansi was found out about it. Jansi asked Suki whether she met Danny Casey or not. As Jansi knew that Suki was incapable of finding the words which Suki told Jansi that she met Danny Casey and she requested him for an autograph for her little brother Derek. But unfortunately, neither she nor Danny Casey had a paper or pen to have an autograph. But Danny Casey promised her to meet her again at the appointed place. Hence, Sufi waits for Danny Casey at the appointed place, where only the few people together who waited for their loved ones. Hence, Sufi waits for him for a long time, but finding that he will not visit there and becomes disappointed. And finally, it was a great challenge for her to prove that whether she was right or wrong, as all were not trusted on her words. It was a challenging one, but finally, she found herself on the way. And she became disappointed as Danny Casey would never come to visit her. The story comes to an end as an unsatisfied desire by someone who only assumes of her life. Sufi told Jansi that she met Danny Casey and she requested him for an autograph for her little brother Derek. But unfortunately, neither she nor Danny Casey had a paper or pen to have an autograph. But Danny Casey promised her to meet her again at the appointed place. Hence, Sufi waits for Danny Casey at the appointed place, where only the few people would gather who waited for their loving ones. Hence, Sufi waits for him for a long time, but finding that he will not visit there and becomes disappointed. And finally, it was a great challenge for her to prove that whether she was right or wrong, as all were not trusted on her words. It was a challenging one, but finally she found herself on the way. And she became disappointed as Danny Casey would never come to visit her. The story comes to an end as an unsatisfied desire by someone who only assumes of her life. Sufi told Jansi that she met Danny Casey and she requested him for an autograph for her little brother Derek. But unfortunately, neither she nor Danny Casey had a paper or pen to have an autograph. But Danny Casey promised her to meet her again at the appointed place. Hence, Sufi waits for Danny Casey at the appointed place, where only the few people would gather who waited for their loving ones. Hence, Sufi waits for him for a long time, but finding that he will not visit there and becomes disappointed. And finally, it was a great challenge for her. She was was right or wrong, as all were not trusted on her words. It was a challenging road, but finally found herself on the way. And she became disappointed as Danny Casey could never come to visit her. The story comes to an end as an unsatisfied desire by someone who only assumes of her life. So he told Jansi that she met Danny Casey. She requested him for an autograph for her little brother Derek, but unfortunately, neither she nor Danny Casey had a paper or pen to have an autograph. But Danny Casey promised her to meet her again at the appointed place. Hence, Sophie waits for Danny Casey at the appointed place, where only the few people together who waited for their loving ones. Hence, Sophie waits for him for a long time, but finding that he will not visit there and becomes disappointed. Finally, it was a great challenge for her to prove that whether she was right or wrong, as all were not trusted on her words. It was a challenging road, but finally she found herself on the way. And she became disappointed as Danny Casey would never come to visit her. The story comes to an end as an unsatisfied desire by someone only assumes
मेरा प्लेलिस्ट लगा है तो राइट
Station concludes that adolescence has different kind of dreaming, but it is not this. A dreaming can be easy for adolescents. Dear student, dear students, good morning to all of you. And we are going to start a new chapter in our English prose, class 12th, that is Poet and Pancake. It is a comical and humorous description by the writer Ashoka Mitra, where, as the title suggests, the poet and pancake. Poet, one hand, means a talent which is literary, and the pancake means the talent how to decorate, how to design, or how to paint the characters playing a role in the film. And all of the activities take place in Gemini Studio. Gemini Studio was famous at, at its time, and the players, the characters who played in the films in the past time used pancakes, a material makeup at that time. It was totally different and loaded on truck. Gemini Studios had a small chamber which includes a complicated included a complicated atmosphere because it has a half dozen mirror in the small chamber. It was just like a saloon where one those subjected to makeup had to face a great problem. And in such a situation, it was a force majeure for the character who are subjected to makeup because he had to face incandescent line all around it. And as far as the famous name in this story is concerned, a great character, Kothamangalam Subbu. Kothamangalam Subbu was a Brahmin, and by virtue, he had the talent to adjust himself to the circumstances, whether it is adverse or suitable. And for his readiness and for his immediate responses, he was very good to his boss. He was at number 2 in Gemini Studios. And whenever the boss or any high rank officers orders him, he was always ready to follow. And there were many members who were jealous of him because he was so popular and she was so close to the boss, and also there were so many members who visited to him. It was that's why they were jealous to Kothamangalam Subbu. And one of them was the office boy, who always blamed Kothamangalam Subbu for not able to become a writer and or to become an actress or a script writer, and his literary talents was dwarfing at that moment, and he was given a work of crowd painting. It was a very good thing for him that doing so he had not to think a lot of about how to paint or how to decorate the characters. There was hierarchy in Gemini Studios, and because of this, the chief actors are subjected to the chief makeup man, and the assistant actors are subjected to the assistant makeup man. And as far as the crowd shooting is concerned, it was the responsibility of the office boy. At the same time, good morning. Today's session, we are going to discuss the lesson of the red trap is a story full of men and philosophical perspective. In this story, there is a red trap seller who is called peddler, who sold his red traps made of wires going to the villages and the towns. As he was poor, so he could not manage the needs for his own enjoyment as well as the daily bread. For this reason, he sometimes stole the things to manage his daily bread. And now there was an interesting thing is there when he was at his selling grounds, thought of an idea to share the world. And the idea was the world around him, its lands, cities, towns, villages, and all the things on this earth is nothing but a big rat race. As the world offers the people,
आप मेरे से
joys,
बोल देते
sorrow, food, shelter,
आपको कोई चिंता ही नहीं है
rivers,
बोलने
and
की।
बात ये नहीं है, अच्छे से सीखना चाहिए। उसमें कुछ पता ही ना हो।
ये तो है ही, सीखना बहुत जरूरी होता है थोड़ी सी।
मैं अपना पढ़े रहा था, जैसे दिन भर को पढ़ाई में जुटे भाग गया था,
क्या?
पूरा समय उनके लिए खा दिया तो अपन करता हूँ क्या है करे थे
अभी मत करो,
खुद करके
वो लगा दिए मेरे को।
सामने रोड पे सब बन गया किसी
अब बन गया तो छोटी डिलीट नहीं कर दी तो ना। इसको हटाओ पहले लाइव वाला मैसेज हुआ आपका है, बंद कर दे, इसको ऑन कर